don't find myself particularly interesting.
Welcome back to the Media Circus, the game show about the news game. In a week where Bill Shorten manages to rise above petty political point scoring for half a sentence.
Let's not have an argument about who should take credit here, because after all, Labor initiated this project.
And as soon as the government announced the new TPP trade deal, this Perth man tried to export his car overseas. Joining us on the Media Circus tonight are, from the Checkout, Scott Abbott. From the Sydney Morning Herald, Jackie Maley. And the host of Dirty Laundry Live, Lawrence Mooney.
That's it.
And they're up against Julian Morrow from The Chaser. Alex Lee from BuzzFeed. And from the Drum and Late Line, Steve Kinane. And Steve, I thought your report this week on Late Line on the Trans-Pacific Partnership was very incisive. What was that?
I was doing a story on backpacker culture in Cairns, and that was a toga party involved cruising around Cairns in an animal bus, and they were 4 Irish guys.
For coming up with the idea that you got to go on that bus tour and we paid for it, that was a great idea too. All right, the only thing people care about this week is, of course, sport. So tonight we need to find out who's the best of the best from the last week. So Jules, Steve and Alex, your team Hawks. And Scott, Jackie and Lawrence, your team Cowboys.
Ooh.
And as always, the Media Circus is under the watchful eye of our fact-checker, Chesley Chidello.
That's right. And this week, I've actually been fact-checking the promo for Carl Stefanovic's new show.
Australia's most informed minds, including Jackie Lambie.
Thank you, Chaz. And now let's play the news game.
Stitch Up.
And as always, we start with Stitch Up. We've stitched together 4 stories from the week's news. You have to tell us what they are. Here's the Stitch Up.
It is Party Central in Townsville as
The skeleton of a woolly mammoth
reveals his surprising ambition to one day run the country.
After coming out as gay.
There you go. Team Cowboys. What was the first story there?
I think... Do you reckon our name might give it away?
Your name, right. I got to say, this is not the hardest question, given your name and the story, yes.
Yes, the Cowboys win the NRL Premiership.
That's right. Jonathan Thurston led North Queensland to their first ever NRL Premiership, and they described the feeling in a way we can all understand. All right.
To be fair, Jonathan Thurston really likes Lego.
He loves Lego, yeah, exactly. All right, what was the second story, Team Hawks?
They dug one up somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah, I think, isn't there a serial killer of woolly mammoths on the loose in America or something?
Let's see. That's right. A woolly mammoth skeleton has been found buried in a farm in Michigan, but the farm owner didn't seem too enthusiastic.
Worried about the disruption to his farming, however, he gave paleontologists just one day to excavate the site.
It's the block's toughest challenge yet.
I'll tell you what the real woolly mammoth was there. The bum crack that digging guy had. Oh.
All right, now, team... Where are we up to? Team Cowboys.
Yeah, it's our turn.
What was the third story? We'll just recap it quickly.
Reveals his surprising ambition to one day run the country.
This was the Deputy Mayor of Auburn, who has recently created attention for himself because he had a very flamboyant wedding.
That is right, that's right. Yes, the famous Deputy Mayor of Auburn, whose wild wedding celebrations made national news, has announced that he wants to be Prime Minister one day. And he's copying Tony Abbott and clearly wants to be Minister for Women as well.
I tend to understand and respect the role of a female.
So you want her to stand next to you at the podium?
Yeah, why not? Just probably step back though, like 2 metres.
The worst thing is he's actually got a better approval rating than Bill Shorten already.
Yeah. I would love it if he was Prime Minister. Shit. God, that'd be good.
He's already got the helicopter. He could be Speaker.
Yeah. All right, Team Hawks, your turn again. Here's a reminder of the final story.
After coming out as gay.
What was that about?
Is that the priest who came out gay and the Vatican sacked him?
Yes, that is right. Well done.
A senior Vatican priest has been sacked after coming out as gay.
Yes,
I mean, they're all gay, but they don't often come out.
No, yeah, that's the thing.
Don't ask, don't tell.
The church said there is just no place for a gay man in an institution full of men who dress as penises. Well done, players. At the end of that stitch-up, it's a draw, actually. So, Chaz, have you got a reward for them both?
They both got a lesson from the Today Show, Craig, and that is if you aren't an action macho man, don't pretend that you are an action macho man.
If you would like to be a future officer or young leader in the Army, Navy or Air Force, then ADFA is definitely for you. It's a 3 or 4 year degree, and at the same time, you get military training and become...
The Encyclopedia of News. Footy finals.
Everyone loves footy, even though their mascots are sometimes frightening.
Help, Mummy! The bird's gonna get me!
And during the finals, no footy story is too pointless. From
a flock of sheep dyed yellow and blue
to an in-depth investigation of Jonathan Thurston's laugh.
There's something else that stands out about JT.
Give us your best shot.
And stories that have nothing to do with footy have to be about footy.
Dozens of residents, including footy fans, have fled an apartment building fire in the city.
Attention, footy fan fire alert. Ignore the women and children, rescue the fans.
There are 2 things a good footy story needs. Firstly, crazy fans.
Queensland Grand Final!
Sensational stuff!
The crazier, the better.
How do I feel?
Bev, who legally changed her surname to West Coast. That's right, Bev West Coast.
Wise choice, Bev. Now, instead of your family's name, you're named after an alcopop. But there is still room for serious discussion.
Yeah, hopefully a fun day today and, enjoy each other's company.
You get a few bit of redneck behaviour, but that's, we all cop that, but generally the population is pretty good and switched on to that.
Secondly, you need some experts. For instance, a clash between the Hawks and the Eagles requires a woman holding 2 birds.
Eagles, they're certainly renowned for their vision, their strength and power, as well as their grace and beauty. With the Hawks, they're obviously reliant more on their speed and agility.
And a qualifying final requires someone to state the bleeding obvious.
But I'll say this, the side who wins here tonight has the best chance of making to the grand final out of these 2 sides.
What did you think of that analysis?
I think it made him look like a galah. That's it.
But the most respected experts aren't even human.
These Gentoo penguins overwhelmingly chose Hawthorn's gold pebbles to build their nests.
Sydney Aquarium's resident Dugong has chosen a Cowboys ball this morning over a Broncos ball.
Amazing intuition. Just look how decisively this dugong chooses this ball of its own free will. And the dugong wasn't the only expert to pick the Cowboys.
The same thing happened with a Queensland-based polar bear.
Until that same bear was on Channel 9.
But a polar bear reached for the Broncos.
Oh, I'll never trust a polar bear's analysis again. Although Channel 9 still hired that bear as a commentator.
Well, how's that not a knock on? He was never going to catch it.
This is Chaz Bacardi-Breezer for Media Circus.
If you're bored of the news, so is our next game. And on the news board this week, we have Matthias Cormann, Channel 7's Lee Jelisek, rapper Chris Brown, star of Cluedo, Colonel Mustard, Jonathan Thurston and Andrew Robb. Very boring dinner party, that, but anyway. All right, teams take it in turn to pick a face. Questions are open to everyone, so buzz to answer. Who do you want to pick from the board of the news?
I like the look of Matthias Cormann.
I bet that is a lie. That is a lie. But anyway, let's go with Finance Minister Matthias Cormann. Was a key figure at the mini economic summit this week, and he stuck to Malcolm Turnbull's script.
We are here to listen. We're very committed to listen.
Yesterday was very much about listening.
And the government was very much in listening mode.
And what they were mainly listening to was more Tony Abbott interviews for his no sniping tour. which Matthias Cormann had to answer a question about. Now, can you complete Matthias Cormann's sentence here, preferably in his accent?
I'd be very, very surprised if Tony Abbott had any interest whatsoever in being...
Sounds extremely rude. Yes, Jules?
Australia's Next Top Model?
In my remake of Conan the Barbarian.
At a wine tasting with Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah. Was that his accent?
That was his accent. I am Matthias Cormann.
Yeah.
I look different up there, but because I haven't got the grey yet. But I know a lot about finance, if you want to ask me anything there. Please, why are you laughing at my... you're being pretty racist. No, I think you are. And so am I.
It's like being Australia. We're all being racist together.
Well, that's why we're one big happy country.
I didn't have anything. I just wanted Lawrence to stop doing that.
Any other answers? No.
I know the real answer.
Yeah?
It's that he didn't have any interest at all in being an ambassador to London.
Let's see if you're right.
The US.
I'd be very, very surprised if Tony Abbott had any interest whatsoever in being an ambassador or high commissioner somewhere overseas.
Right, Team Hawks, what's your pick of the board?
Let's go Channel 7 reporter Lee Jelisek.
Oh, Lee Jelisek, yes.
Steve Kinane goes commercial. Yeah. You heard it first.
That is Channel 7 reporter Lee Jelisek, who was right on spot this week to cover a major event.
This is history. This is a world first.
What world first did Channel 7 News cover?
Lee Jelisek being made redundant?
Yes.
Wasn't this actually the very first bus route that didn't have any racist rants on it? It was a real history maker.
Had the bus driver smiled at him? Because they hate people.
Yeah. Let's find out.
This is history. This is a world first on a Sydney bus. A live cross on the bus to see how that run home is going.
Get your kids close, people. This is history in the making. What is amazing, though, is you were close, is that it wasn't even the most ridiculous exaggeration in the media coverage of some bus route changes in Sydney, such as how to survive Busmageddon, and also on Channel 7, Shocktober. What would they have called it if it was other months? Yes.
Mayhem.
Mayhem. Oh, they could have covered May. Yes, that's good too. Yes.
Wovember.
Wovember, yes. See the proper journos. That's journalism school, kids, OK?
July, not going to catch the bus tomorrow.
Great. Yeah, great.
That's why he's not a journalist. Yes, Chaz.
You know that Shocktober, Craig, was just the beginning of the overstatement because Channel 7 went back for more very soon.
Good evening. There are just 4 days to go before Sydney enters a public transport nightmare from which some critics claim we might never recover.
Everyone is wondering, of course, how shocking was Shocktober? Let's cross back to that amazing world first report.
So far, it looks to be going pretty well. Everyone on board here is pretty happy. You're having a good time on board?
I am, yeah.
I think everyone on TV is just trying to press that big stop button.
I'll never forget where I was when the live cross came.
Yes, Chaz.
You know that was only Lee Jelisek's second biggest story of the year, though. Because
do we have more Lee Jelisek?
Oh yeah, the real big one.
All the people at home are excited.
Back during the when Tony Abbott called the Leaders Retreat early in the year, Lee Jelisek got the biggest breakthrough ever.
The good news is that this morning's talks in Sydney, I can reveal, have produced a breakthrough, and that is that the leaders have agreed to go away and talk some more ahead of further talks later.
Big scoop.
Right. Yeah. Team Cowboys, next pick of the board. What do you want to pick?
A fellow outlaw, Chris Brown.
Chris Brown, OK, yes.
US singer Chris Brown is being denied entry to Australia over his domestic violence history.
Yes, the Immigration Minister Peter Dutton has had a big few weeks, also cancelling the visa of radical anti-abortion campaigner Troy Newman. Now, teams, with our next questions, you can be just like Peter Dutton, OK, as everyone wants to be, as we play Celebrity Border Security. All right. Who has Australia denied a visa to?
Everyone.
Everyone, yeah. Yeah.
Everyone.
Who have we denied a visa to? Was it Mike Tyson, Gerry Adams, head of the Irish Republican movement Sinn Féin, or Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne? Buzz in if you know the answer. Yes.
I think we denied a visa to Gerry Adams.
To Gerry Adams, that is right. Well done. It was Gerry Adams in 1996. Immigration Minister Philip Ruddock banned him because Sinn Féin's links with IRA terrorism, although they let him back in a few years later. Hey? Even though Mike Tyson spent 3 years in prison for rape, he got a visa to visit Australia, which is a bit surprising, but even more surprising, it was for a speaking tour. The people paid to go to. And even though Ozzy Osbourne was once arrested for urinating on the Alamo, he was let into Australia because, you know, pissing on stuff, we kind of love that behaviour. OK, next up. Which of these three fine applicants was knocked back for an Australian visa? Rapper Snoop Dogg, rapper Waka Flocka Flame, and alleged rapper Vanilla Ice. Yes, Steve?
I think it was Snoop.
Yeah.
You think it was Snoop Dogg? Let's see, the actual answer is it was both Snoop and Waka Flocka Flame.
Oh.
You used to be a Triple J, you should have known that, Steve. They were denied visas due to drug and firearms charges, although Snoop was let back in a year later because we got over that kind of shit. But Vanilla Ice was always allowed to tour Australia despite a string of criminal convictions and obvious crimes against humanity. OK, finally, each of these three men was allowed to tour Australia despite being a convicted criminal. Rapper Jay-Z, Motley Crue frontman Vince Neil and uncouth thug Stephen Fry. But which one actually spent time in prison?
I think Stephen Fry has been to the big house.
You think Stephen Fry's been to the big house?
Yeah, I think he was charged with fraudulent acquisition or something like that at some stage.
It is Stephen Fry, who spent 3 months in prison for credit card fraud at age 17. He was released on the condition that he go on and host 14 billion episodes of QI.
He's repaid his debt to society.
Yeah.
And let's have a look at some of that now.
Yes, OK. Team Hawks, what's your pick of the board?
Let's go with, is that Colonel Mustard down there?
It is Colonel Mustard, well done. Colonel Mustard from Cluedo. He's there because we need to solve some crimes, specifically prison escapes, which has been a spate of recently. Not that all of them have worked.
Prison escape at Goulburn Jail has been foiled with the discovery of what looks to be a tunnel in the making.
A hole 40 centimetres wide, 60 centimetres deep, apparently stuffed with Parramatta Eels supporters gear.
The lengths people will go to hide the fact they're Parramatta fans. OK, now I'm going to show you a picture of a recent prison escapee and I want you to choose from a series of items and methods to piece together the story of their great escape. Let's start with Ali Shaheen, who recently escaped from a courtroom in the middle of his hearing. How did he escape? A window? A side exit or a clever disguise?
I think he went out a side exit.
Side exit, let's lock in side exit, OK. And what was his getaway vehicle? Was it a car, on foot or public bus?
I don't think he would have caught a bus in Shocktober.
But if he had, it would have been a world first.
I think it was a bus, actually. He hopped on a bus and Lee Jelisek was there. And
Yeah, I would love that if he'd actually caught him. Well, first, actually, I've caught the guy. Look, so you've chosen the side exit and the bus. Let's see if you're right.
Escaped through a side exit and hopped on a bus.
Well done.
Well done.
I got to say, I think it is great that people who want to get away from custody are doing it in a carbon-neutral way.
Yeah. It's true. And in fact, the only reason he actually managed to get caught in the end was because he was snapped in one of Malcolm Turnbull's train tweets. Yes, Chase?
Craig, they were always going to catch that guy. The police had the perfect guy on the case. Deputy Inspector Leggett. By the way, he's not the only news figure with an appropriate name this week. I'm not sure if you saw the spokesperson for Volkswagen, but Olaf lies.
Look, and he wasn't the only one shaking his shackles that day.
Prisoners remain on the run after escaping from custody in New South Wales yesterday. Beau Wiles escaped from Goulburn Jail.
OK, so what would Beau Wiles' preferred tool for escaping? Was it bribery, a Swiss Army knife or a mobile phone? Yes, Lawrence?
I'll go for good old-fashioned bribery.
Bribery? Let's lock in bribery then. And how did he get away? Did he hijack a car, ask someone for a lift, or charter a helicopter?
You got to go Bronnymobile. Surely it was a helicopter.
Well, yes.
I think he asked for a lift. I think his lady friend came and picked him up.
OK, let's see. You said it was Beau Wiles using bribery and asking for a lift. Let's see if you're right.
Of course, he escaped amazingly yesterday at around 10 o'clock in the morning after it's believed that he used a mobile phone to call someone and that person picked him up.
Ah, the perfect crime. I think we may have figured out why this keeps happening. Here is an explanation for the guy running the jail system.
Literally, they can walk away if they so choose, that they're on trust.
Of all the people to run a trust system with, surely criminals, convicted criminals.
To be fair, these are minimum security jails, but when they said minimum security, I didn't realise it was that minimum security.
When they say walk away, is there a jail there, or are they just in a field?
Although people watching Adelaide News were a bit shocked when Robert Avadia was reporting the story, because he clearly looked like the escapee Beau Wiles. Look at that.
I cannot believe you went with that, Craig. You are such a black kettle. I mean, do you guys remember the escapee from Goulburn Jail a few weeks back? Hello? I've been waiting to use that for a month.
That was a tough few days on Twitter, I've got to say. All right, look, to make ourselves better about our corrective system, let's go overseas for a far more impressive escape. We're going to go to a Russian daycare centre. 2 5-year-olds escaped from a daycare centre in Russia. How did they do it? Did they ride out on tricycles, hide in a teacher's car, or dig their way out with a spade?
I think what they did is they got on each other's shoulders and walked out wearing a big coat.
It's not one of the answers, Scott. I don't think you understand Cluedo.
I know this story. They tunnelled their way out.
Tunnelled their way out. Let's lock that in. And how did they get caught? Were they in a park? Were they stealing candy or trying to buy a getaway car?
They went to an Audi dealership, or a Ferrari dealership, and tried to buy a car.
You're very, very close. Let's lock those in.
No, Jaguar dealership.
It was a Jaguar dealership. They dug their way out and they went to buy a sports car and...
And now they're in a daycare gulag.
That is the end of the Board of the News, and our winner, I think, is Team Cowboys. Chaz, what is their reward?
Their reward is yet another example of why Russia is different.
It's not a dog in the back seat, but a bear sticking his head out the window. The dashcam video was taken in a Russian city where police say they didn't pull the driver over because the bear was wearing a seatbelt and didn't break any laws.
Hey, Directioners! If you want all the news about One Direction, there's only one network, ABC 24.
So even if One Direction do split, it's highly unlikely it will be forever.
Well, that is big news for Gen Y there, Scott.
Tell you what else is big news, the weather.
With the world's biggest 1D fan, Scott Bevan.
Oh, here's his story again.
It's your favourite.
I've been waiting for this. It's the biggest British boy band since the Beatles, having sold millions of records worldwide. But now it looks like the members of One Direction are heading their separate ways.
So even if One Direction do split, it's highly unlikely it will be forever.
Every juicy detail, every 5 minutes.
Well, I can't believe I have to read this anyway.
Speaking of Gen Y.
It's the biggest British boy band since the Beatles, but nowhere near as good.
ABC 24's Scott Bevan. He's only heading in one direction.
What makes you Yesterday's news.
It's time for another trip down short memories lane as we dip into the archives of TV news on this day, the 8th of October.
Shocktober.
Sorry, Shocktober, sorry. And historically, this day's been big for political hardmen. There was this notorious handshake. between Prime Minister John Howard and then Opposition Leader Mark Latham. And that's also the last known footage of Latham having a firm grip on anything. But our first question, it's Australian cricketer Greg Matthews speaking in 1992.
Yes, I have been fined. It would not be in my best interest to comment due to contractual commitments.
Why was Greg Matthews fined?
There was some incident when he was on tour and the Australian team was playing in Sharjah. This is obviously not the answer the way you're looking at it.
I'm
Maybe
just
I know
fascinated.
some insider gossip that he didn't get fined for. I'm not sure.
Maybe this is just a research for your cricket book.
I mean, Greg Matthews did advanced hair. Was he fined for wearing a cap?
Was he busted with weed?
No, he wasn't busted with weed. Almost the opposite of that.
The cricket was sponsored by Benson and Hedges, the cigarette company, and he was busted having given up smoking.
That is right. Well done. Let's have a look.
On one hand, his contract says he can't do anything to damage Benson and Hedges' image. On the other, he's a reformed smoker and proud of it. But the Australian Cricket Board isn't so proud. They saw this article in a women's magazine as damaging to the sponsor.
And I think that's a fair call, given the earring. I mean, it was damaging.
Craig, I used to work in the change rooms in that era at the
In
SCG.
Sharjah?
Not in Sharjah. I remember the players...
Working in the change rooms. Just lets that... Should we let it just slip by? Working for cash or... Or was it a lunch job?
I was working for the catering company. I was putting the food on the table, they would eat it, I would take the plates away.
In which era?
That era. And I remember the players saying, can we have some cigarettes? Because they were sponsored by Benson Hedges. And I'd say, they'd expect me to deliver the durries to them, but I just have to say, sorry, cigarette machine down the hallway. They were expecting it all laid out.
Just next to, like, the cabanossi and the cheese.
That's right.
Cigarettes.
All right, that's the end of yesterday's news, and the winners are Team Cowboys. Congratulations. And you've won a complete set of One Direction CDs, and here to present them to you is One Direction's biggest fan, the Directioner himself, Mr. Scott Bevan.
And that's what makes you beautiful.
Now, Steve Kinane, you've done a lot of news reports about Scientology. How do they respond when you do those stories?
They always threaten to sue me. Sometimes they threaten to injunct the program.
That is extremely bad news, Steve, because our next game is the free Scientology test. Come on out, guys. We've got one of the real Scientology's, personality testers.
Put your ear to it, you can hear the cash pouring in.
All right, let's start with the questions. Julian, the first one is to you. Apparently the origin story of Scientology involves aliens coming to this planet 75 million years ago.
True.
Who flew them here? Was it Xenon, Xenu, Xena Warrior Princess, or Senator Nick Xenophon?
God, I hope it's not Xenophon. Imagine the parliamentary expenses that go on. It's Xenu, isn't it?
It's Xenu. That is correct. It was Xenu. Yeah, all right.
If hypothetically speaking, I was a Scientologist, should I not find this offensive?
You should probably get the answer right to the question I asked you, okay? All right, let's go to Jackie next. When Xenu got to Earth, he put the aliens in volcanoes, and then did he kill them with lava, kill them with hydrogen bombs, or make them marry Tom Cruise?
Well, as far as I know, Nicole Kidman's still alive.
Although when you watch her acting...
Lava, I think, although that might have been an episode of Monkey Magic and I got mixed.
You are wrong. They put them in volcanoes and used hydrogen bombs, which is a pretty crazy story. I mean, why didn't they just, flood the world like a normal god?
If I was a Christian, hypothetically...
All right, let's see. Now, Steve is writing a book about Scientology.
And I'm in deeper shit now, thanks.
Yeah. So, Alex, which method of intimidation did the Church of Scientology in America use against the author of a book in the 1970s, The Scandal of Scientology? Were her psychiatric records stolen and published? Was she framed for making a bomb threat? Was her childhood diary stolen and given to her father? Or were her neighbours told she was a prostitute with VD?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure. Let's go with... God, number one is probably the most horrific, so let's go with that one.
No, the answer is all of the above. There were methods used against Paulette Cooper after she wrote a book about them. So, Steve, how are you feeling about writing that book right now?
Well, that was the 1970s. Hopefully things have changed, Craig. I spoke to Paulette Cooper, who wrote that book, and she claims that the way they tried to frame her for making a bomb threat was somebody turned up at her doorstep with a petition that they thought that she would want to sign, that she held the clipboard. She believes there was a piece of stationery below the clipboard. They got her fingerprint. Somebody bashed out a bomb threat and then sent it to the Church of Scientology as if it was her.
Oh. And the good thing is, people at home, if you want to frame someone for a bomb threat, now you know how. Thank you, Steve.
Apropos number 4, Steve.
Yes.
You have worked in the change rooms of the Australian cricket team.
Oh, maybe it's supposed to be VB.
Have you been hassled at all?
I just assume that I'm under surveillance. I assume they're going through my rubbish. They do that with critics in the US. I assume that's the case. I had a very minor incident, Craig, where somebody went to the State Library of New South Wales to the family history section and somebody wanted to look up my family tree.
Wow.
Really?
So obviously they were trying to find who your father was so they could give him your childhood diary.
I'm sure Steve, or as I call him, the guy that lives at 43 Brook Street, Malvern, will be just fine. He'll be fine. All right, well, that clears things up. But the winner of our free Scientology test was... let's give it to Steve's team. Yeah, well, he should win it.
When animals attack. On September 8, the Sunrise programme promised the appearance of a baby tiger.
Coming up this Tuesday, when a tiger cub took his first steps in public. We'll get an update on Dreamworld's cute little addition.
By 6:25 a.m, there was no sign of the tiger.
You drive that flaming tank up my clacker.
By 6:35 a.m, still no tiger. A cow, but no tiger. Then at 6:51, the tiger appeared. But instead of a cute baby one, it was a snarling, vicious Islamophobic tiger.
Islam in Australia, we are going to have huge problems down the track.
They promised Dreamworld. They delivered a nightmare. When Pauline Hanson attacks.
On the upside.
In On the Upside, I'll read you out some of these bad news stories, and you have to come up with a positive spin on the story. All right. The official New South Wales Rugby League Twitter account accidentally tweeted porn during the grand final.
But on the upside, Andrew Johns will not be moderating tweets next year.
But on the upside, it wasn't tweeted during Q&A.
On the upside, the NRL was promoting sex rather than gambling.
On the upside, it wasn't Todd Carney bubbling.
On the upside, it was still the most positive image of women that the NRL's been associated with.
Low-income workers may be about to lose their Sunday penalty rates.
On the upside, prices crash on Eggs Benedict.
That was much better, man.
On the upside, you can rub it in by ordering a double time and a quarter pounder with cheese.
I like that.
On the upside, some actors may actually starve to death.
That is funny. All right, our next story. Australia's Miss Universe entrant will be wearing this.
On the upside, she could have been wearing Celeste Patterson's outfit.
But on the upside, when she says my eyes are up here, you'll know where to look.
All right, let's move on. A Vatican priest has been sacked for admitting he's gay.
On the upside, he now has a great costume to wear to Mardi Gras.
On the upside, he's finally turned his back on that vile, immoral lifestyle that he was leading.
On the upside, it wasn't the only sack he was getting.
All right. A giant sinkhole has opened up in London.
On the upside, and this is true, they were evacuated to a nightclub.
Really?
On the upside, the British Prime Minister David Cameron didn't put his penis in it.
Well done, everyone. But the real winner tonight is Team Cowboys. Thank you all for watching, and join us next week on the Media Circus.